Welcome to How It Works. I'm Bob Ambrogi, and on today's episode, we're going to learn about Billables AI, a legal tech startup that provides integrated automated time tracking powered by AI. And here to tell us all about it and show us how it works is Nancy Jeng, the company's co-founder. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob. I'm really excited to be here, excited to chat with you and talk about everyone's favorite topic, billable timekeeping. I say that in jest because it's everyone's most hated topic, and that's really why we exist as a company.
That's why we like automated timekeeping, right? Well, uh, before we get into the demo, why don't you kind of give us a little bit of a background about the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of nailed it in your description, but really at a high level, Billables AI is an AI platform that's really designed to automate back office tasks of law firms. And we're starting with the most hated task of all that we alluded to, which is billable timekeeping. And so what we do is we use deep workflow integrations and state-of-the-art machine learning to tackle both the art and science of legal time tracking. And the result is lawyers recover more billable time, oftentimes 10 to 30% more, and they spend less time on laborious tasks like narrative writing and kind of manually keeping their time. So we're really excited to have this product out in market. We're relatively new, but the reception has been really great so far, and we're excited to bring it to even more people.
Great. And when you say for law firms, what kind of law firms is this targeted towards?
Right now, we have a lot of traction with, I would say, mid-law, small law, and most of our customers do bill by the hour, as is true of the industry. But what we've been actually really surprised to learn is that we've had a lot of interest from folks who bill according to different models, whether it's subscription or flat fee or contingency even. And it's because time still continues to be kind of that core increment of how the business is run, even if the pricing varies depending on client and depending on the firm. And so we really have actually broadened in that regard to a variety of different practice areas and different billing models.
But do you want to dive in and show us how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So this is our dashboard on Billables AI. And what's great is everything that you see here was entirely generated by Billables. So without having to start and stop a manual timer, or even come to the billable site, this dashboard is created for you as your day goes on, as you're working, so that you can come in at the end of the day or the week, whenever you do your billing. We won't judge you. And you can see all of these entries created on your behalf. So think of this as a first draft of your billable report. And our goal is to create that full end-to-end report for you. And that means all the components that go into a quality time entry. So just to dissect what's happening here, I'll double click into a couple of these entries so you can see how this is happening and what we're doing behind the scenes to get you as close to that final billable report as possible. So for each of these entries, you can see there's an explanation that shows you what the source activity was. In this case, there were emails that were exchanged, and based on the time spent drafting and sending those emails, we calculate a duration, as you see here, the 0.4 hours. We assign that work to the most relevant client or matter. So that's what's shown here. Biohealth Pharmaceuticals is the client. The matter is this launch. And then we generate a narrative description that really adheres to industry best practices for what makes for a good time entry. So using active verbs, really using kind of standard naming conventions, providing just the right amount of detail to be able to show what the value of that work is. Ideally, you're able to come in here and say, yes, this looks good to go. This is the work that I did, and you approve it. And really, the main role of the user is to just be that quick check to validate that work stream and those time entries. But most of the work in terms of creating those time entries is done for you by Billables.
You said you can be tracking time even without coming to your website. So how is that happening? Or is there something locally being installed on the user's desktop, or how does that tracking begin?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to share a little bit more about, I think, one of our differentiators, which is our really integration-led approach. So we integrate directly with a number of your different workflows to get that depth of information. Most of our integrations are actually through this API. What we don't do is install like a heavy piece of software on your computer that kind of screen grabs every few seconds and then tries to discern what you're working on. Instead, we are integrating directly with the source. So we integrate with Microsoft, with Google, with Zoom, with Adobe, so on and so forth. And there's really three reasons why we took that approach. One, it is more privacy friendly than something that screen captures, right? As you're working, we're only getting the minimum amount of data needed to be able to generate high quality entries and nothing more. Secondly, because we're getting that data directly from these workflow sources, it's a lot more accurate. So we are getting the timestamps and metadata around the folder structure and email structure from Outlook, for example. And so we're able to get that information to more accurately match to the right client matters, to generate more detailed narrative descriptions, for example. And then the third and probably the most compelling reason that we've heard from firms of why this integration-led approach is really powerful is it allows us to be more device agnostic. So what that means is if you're sending emails at any hour of the day, maybe from your phone, maybe from your tablet, you may not always be at your desk, which more and more is the case. We're able to capture all of that time because it's going through Outlook and we are integrated directly with Outlook, or it's going through Gmail and we're integrated directly with Gmail. And so for that reason, people have found that we are able to capture a lot more time than they would have on their own. A lot of those point ones, point twos that are, done on the go or just outside of kind of a normal working environment, and they've recovered 10 to 30% more time as a result.
Otherwise get lost and don't get counted. How does it know your matters? Is the lawyer having to provide an update of, what the matters are that they have, or are you integrating with practice management platforms, or where's that information coming from?
Yeah, so both. We do integrate with some practice management platforms. We integrate with Clio. And so a vast majority of the customers that we work with are, using us in conjunction with their practice management systems. But we also have ways for you to just input that information directly into Billables. And we do use that list as a source of truth for where to match to. But of course, just having the list isn't enough, right? So how do we make sure that we really capture what's happening in terms of your work stream, and we can infer what matter and client that's related to. So we will take into account the metadata, right, that leads to that work activity, whether it's the email subject line or the correspondence on that email thread, and try to match it using AI and advanced machine learning to the best client and matter in that case. One of the other benefits of our platform is really how we apply AI to improve the experience the more you use it. So, like I mentioned before, in the best case example, you're able to quickly look at the time entries that we generate and approve them. But if you do want to adjust any of the entries, let's say you want to change the narrative from past tense to present tense, you want to reassign to a different matter, all of those changes become incorporated into how the billing platform works for you. To be clear, we're never training the model on any user data, but instead we're providing in-context learning to make sure that the platform is really getting personalized to your use case. And that is specific on a user level, but it's also specific to each client and matter that you're working on. And so as you make these changes to different entries related to different clients, it will start to learn some of the preferences of that client and the requirements that are needed for their billing entries.
So the AI is actually generating the description of the work you do. You're not just capturing the time, you're actually generating the description. So there should be if the lawyer approves it, then you've got a complete time entry there.
That's exactly right. So we are generating this narrative description using industry best practices, but it's also accommodating that lawyer's particular style. What we've learned in talking to hundreds of lawyers and firms is every biller is a bit of a snowflake. They're a little different, right? So there's a lot of nuances in terms of how they want their narratives to read, what the client will be receptive to, the specific, requirements of that practice. And we really use the AI to enhance those personalization elements so that it is learning from the user and it gets better as they use it. And that can go down to things as detailed as punctuation. We've heard really vigorous debates over the use of a period versus a colon versus a semicolon. You know, you wouldn't believe, or maybe you would believe, the kinds of conversations that people have around billing. It is really an art and a science. And I think that is why the AI is so powerful in this regard and is miles ahead of maybe the historic technology that had existed, which was more blunt, right? Just pure time capture, pure timers. This is really advanced. The timing and the duration and the actual time capture is probably the most simplistic part of the technology. It's really the rest of it where it is learning from your own preferences. It's getting smart about what you're working on and how to assign it. That's really what makes this unique and valuable.
I know a lot of law firms use activity codes. I see an entry there that is labeled, has an activity code labeled on it. Does that tell me that you're able to incorporate those kinds of activity codes?
Yes, that's exactly right. So we are able to incorporate all the UTBMS activity codes. So these should look pretty familiar with folks who have to use them, who have the unfortunate need to use them. But we are also able to auto assign activity and task codes, and that can happen on a client or matter level. And so that's another part where the AI is really starting to discern patterns in the activities and your workflows and the different billable activity that you're doing and match it to things based on your approvals, based on historic time entries and your activities. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on is building a very user-first, design-centric experience. And so we recognize that, you know, the best AI tools or any technology is only as good as, you know, the people who are able to use it. And so we really built into the user interface and the design, like a very intuitive flow that uses visuals wherever possible. And what we found is adoption has been really healthy with the firms that we've kind of onboarded onto, and that people really require very few steps in terms of onboarding and training. And so you can really get up and running quite quickly. And we have different features that allow for that ease of use. So being able to view things by client and matter, being able to filter different entries, and also filtering out on your behalf any irrelevant time entries that might not be billable. So there's a lot of things that we're doing to make this as seamless of an experience as possible for users, because frankly, no one likes spending time on billing, and we're trying to minimize all of that time spent that could otherwise be going towards valuable client work.
So I'm a lawyer. I've reviewed the entries. I've checked the ones that I approve. What happens then? Does that get pushed out to my invoicing system?
Yes. So after you approve your entries, they become eligible for export. And that can go directly to your invoicing or practice management system, or you can also download a CSV that could be used in a variety of different ways. Some people append it to a different invoicing system, for example. And so it really is that simple check that you as a user, as a lawyer, would have to do to make sure that that is what you actually want to bill for. We are never automating things to the degree that we're issuing bills and kind of sending things out to clients without your eyes on it, but we're making sure that it's as simple as possible for you to make those edits and approvals.
All right. Well, this all really looks great. I love the whole concept of automated time capture, and it looks like you've done a really great job in terms of executing on it, and as you said, making a great user interface around it. So congratulations on this. It looks great.
Thank you. We never thought we'd be so excited about billing, and yet here we are. And it's been great to see the reception in market, and we're excited to work with even more firms.
Well, thanks for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
That's it for this episode of How It Works. You can find all of the series at directory.lawnext.com under the resources tab, or on YouTube. Just search for How It Works there. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for watching.